Welcome to the Manager Lab, where we delve into the increasingly dynamic world of talent management. In each episode, we will unravel key insights, break down the most relevant books and articles, and provide actionable tips to optimize your approach in developing and retaining top talent. Stay tuned for a deep dive into the art, science, and strategy of unlocking your team's full potential. Let's enter the Manager Lab. Today we're talking about one of the most energizing chapters in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell, the Law of the Big Mo. And by Big Mo simply means this: momentum is the leader's best friend. If you've ever pushed a stalled car, you know exactly what Maxwell means. At first, the car barely moves. It feels heavy and frustrating, almost impossible. But once it starts rolling, suddenly the effort changes. The same force creates far more movement. That's momentum. And according to Maxwell, momentum can solve problems, create confidence, increase buy-in, and make average people perform above expectations. But without momentum, even simple tasks feel exhausting. One of the biggest leadership mistakes managers make is assuming their team's biggest issue is talent, strategy, or resources, when often the real issue is simply a lack of momentum. Because when a team loses momentum, everything feels harder. Small problems become big problems. People overanalyze, energy drops, meetings drag on, cynicism rises, and change feels very difficult. But when momentum is present, people become hopeful again. They move faster. They believe improvement is actually possible. Maxwell says this: momentum is the great exaggerator. In other words, momentum makes things appear better or worse than they actually are. And we see this everywhere. A struggling sports team suddenly wins 3 games in a row and starts believing they can beat anyone. A business launches with one successful initiative, and suddenly innovation spreads everywhere. A discouraged team hits one important milestone, and morale changes almost overnight because momentum changes perception. One of the examples Maxwell uses in the chapter is from the 1991 NFL season with the Washington Redskins. Before the season, very few experts predicted dominance, but once this team started winning, confidence exploded. Momentum carried them through adversity and ultimately to a Super Bowl championship. The talent mattered, the coaching mattered, but momentum multiplied everything. And that's exactly what happens inside organizations. A team with momentum will often outperform a more talented team without it. Now, here's the important leadership lesson. Leaders are responsible for creating momentum. People often wait for motivation before they act, but leaders understand the opposite is actually true. Action creates momentum, and then momentum creates the motivation. So if you're managing a team right now and things feel stuck, don't wait for energy to magically appear. Create movement. Start small if you have to, because small wins matter enormously. In fact, one of the most practical takeaways from this chapter is that winning changes people. When teams experience progress, even small progress, they begin believing again. That's why great managers intentionally engineer early wins. One of the 8 wins of change management by John Cotter. If you're leading a team through change, don't start with the hardest initiative first. Start with something achievable that creates confidence. So get a quick victory, create visible progress, and then celebrate it publicly. Momentum grows when people can see evidence that effort is working. Another powerful point Maxwell makes is that followers catch momentum from leaders. If the leader is discouraged, negative, hesitant, or fearful, the team absorbs that. But if the leader is optimistic, proactive, energetic, and focused on solutions, the team feels that too. That doesn't mean fake positivity. It means leaders become emotional thermostats. They set the temperature. So one practical question every manager should ask is, what energy am I bringing into the room? Whether that room is physical or online because your team feels your attitude before they hear your strategy. Now, here are 3 highly practical manager tips directly connected to the law of the big mo. Tip number 1, create quick wins. Don't underestimate the power of visible progress. If your team feels overwhelmed, break large goals into kind of smaller milestones. So instead of saying, we need to transform the entire department, say, let's improve response times by 10% this month. Create that specific win, and that will create belief. And belief will then fuel your momentum. As Maxwell emphasizes, momentum is easier to steer than to start. So your first priority as a leader is simply getting movement. Tip number 2, protect team energy. Momentum is very fragile. One toxic attitude or one unnecessary bureaucracy or one discouraged leader can slow an entire team down. So managers must become protectors of energy. So what that means is removing unnecessary obstacles, addressing negativity very quickly, recognizing progress consistently, keeping meetings purposeful, and helping people focus on solutions instead of blame. Teams don't lose momentum overnight. It usually leaks away very slowly, and great leaders notice that early. And then finally, tip number 3, celebrate progress publicly. Momentum grows when people feel their work matters. One of the easiest ways to sustain momentum is to celebrate movement before the final outcome arrives. Too many managers wait until the entire project is complete before recognizing effort. But great leaders celebrate milestones. Why? Because recognition reinforces behavior. When people see progress acknowledged, they want to keep going. And this is especially important during long projects or difficult seasons. Sometimes people can endure almost any challenge if they believe progress is happening. That's what momentum provides, hope. And honestly, that may be one of the greatest gifts a leader can give a team. Hope that improvement is possible. Hope that effort matters, and hope that better days are just ahead. Maxwell makes another important point in the chapter. You cannot manufacture momentum with speeches alone. You create momentum through leadership action, not hype, not slogans, not endless meetings, but action, disciplined execution, consistent progress. And here's the encouraging news. Momentum doesn't require perfection. It just requires movement. So if you're leading a discouraged team today, don't focus first on doing something massive. Focus on doing something meaningful. Create one win. Build one success. Solve one problem. Improve one process. Encourage one person, and then build from there. Because once momentum begins rolling, people start believing again. And when belief returns, performance often follows. So as we close today, remember this. Momentum is not accidental. It is created by leaders who consistently move the team forward, even when progress starts small. And as John C. Maxwell teaches in the law of the big mo, momentum truly is a leader's best friend. Well, thanks for listening. And until next time we meet in the Manager Lab, do good work.